Peace. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alex. I'm an alcoholic. Really grateful to be here today. The person that's speaking today has this really great way of reassuring me that that the things that I say and the feelings that I feel and the place that I am, is all the right things. And, when you're sitting in a meeting and you share where you're at and you don't know, you just show up and you leave the meeting, nobody says anything to you. Well, Robin doesn't let me leave the meeting without saying something to me. Which is really, you don't think that it matters, but it really does. For you to come up to me after a meeting and say, what you said really touched me is really awesome. Because after being here for a long time, you don't know. You don't know if you're, still you don't feel like, you just show up. It's like muscle memory. And you don't know if what you're saying is reaching that alcoholic. And that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. So the fact that you just show up, you get a call, or a text, late at night, the night before, and you're here this morning to speaks volumes about the service that you do for this community. And I got to hear her share my other home group, the Tuesday night speaker meeting. And your message is so strong in solution. And you get to share all of this stuff that happened before, but the solution is so strong. And I think that's just so important that we just continue to come back to the solution. So, yeah, come up here and share some of it with us.
Hi, I'm Robin and I'm an alcoholic. Wow, there are a lot of people here. Thank you so much for choosing to come to a meeting today so I could talk to somebody. And thank you, Alice, for sharing. Okay, there she is. My sobriety date is October the 3rd, 2003. I had my first drink when I was 4 years old. I had my last drink when I was 50. So there's a lot of story in there, and we'll bounce over pieces of it. I come by this disease, honestly. My mother was an alcoholic. Everyone on her line of heritage was an alcoholic. My brother is an alcoholic who is a great guy. He's a somewhat functioning drunk. He's retired now. He works. He starts his day with coffee laced with whiskey and nurses that and more all day long. He has diabetes, juvenile diabetes, so he has now lost one leg and is working on his other one. My sister is an alcoholic. She is the reason that I found AA. She had gone to AA, she says, for 3 years. I had no idea. I was drinking. Didn't keep tabs on her. But she she never worked the steps. She never got a sponsor. She did like the guys. All right. He is so far gone that I can't even call her. I can send her a card. I never hear back. She lives in $1 million home with her alcoholic husband. And that's her life. So I was the lucky one. I was the black sheep of my family. And I am so grateful. So my first drink at 4 was because my father died when I was 4 years old, and my mom was like 30, and so she would have parties, and people would, leave. Some people are normal, and they would drink alcohol in their glasses, and so while she was sleeping it off, my sister and I would go downstairs and cruise the glasses, except the ones with cigarette butts in them, and finish them off. And we loved it. We both loved it. I loved alcohol then. I loved the taste. I loved what it did for me. The first time I remember passing out was when I was probably about 9. We were always served alcohol or wine at big family gatherings. And I had plenty, and I just went in to watch TV and then just didn't wake up. And I was on my way. I drank through high school, plenty of kegers, and I went to the University of Oregon because it was a party school. That's what I knew about it. I spent my first year there playing hard, and I got a whole bunch of W's, which stand for withdrawal. Different kind of withdrawal. On my GPA, on my, that's called, what's that called? Transcript. And so I had a 5-year plan in college so I could learn for the next 4 years. Then I got married, and I was a teacher, and we ended up going to Alaska and teaching in Alaska on a little island in Alaska. And we would have to order our groceries in advance. And because it came on a boat once a week, so you wouldn't want to run out of alcohol. So I had to be very careful about that. And I was a glass of wine a night, except on weekends, drinker. And that was all fine. We were divorced 2 years later. I believe that alcohol had a lot to do with that. I then married again, and he was a great enabler. He's also the father of my 2 children. And when my daughter was born, it was at Kalispell Regional Hospital, and they gave a little wine dinner for the couple parents. So my son was born 13 months later. That Thanksgiving, before my son was born, I thought I might be pregnant, and so I didn't drink. But I can remember standing here, I can see it. I'm at the table, everybody has a glass of Chardonnay sparkling along, and I'm not drinking because I didn't drink throughout my daughter's gestation, and I didn't drink throughout my son's. Thank God, I was not that progressed yet. But when my son was born, right after he was born, I did not say, does he have 10 fingers and 10 toes? I said, did we miss the wine dinner? Because that is what alcohol does. It just sits in the back of my mind, doing push-ups, waiting for when I can have the next drink. So life progressed. I taught school in Australia. In Australia, they have awesome boxed wine. And I would have a box of red and a box of white on my dryer, where every night after school, I came home from teaching and I would pour myself a nice glass of whichever. And in the middle of all of these times of this, what I call normal drinking, there were plenty of doing stupid things. But it progressed. And then drinking wasn't normal anymore. Drinking looked like me on the floor. I'm a teacher in Whitefish. Me on the floor of the Great Northern Bar and Grill, laughing and smashing into a bar stool because I let go while somebody was dancing with me. It looked like me with a bunch of people that I really didn't know taking off my shirt. It looked like those people taking me out of that room and putting me in my own hotel room and missing the rest of the party, which I was very upset about. So I started calling old high school guys. It took me on, well, here, you know, the little list of all the things we've done. Well, this is one of mine. I was trying to control it because I couldn't control it. I couldn't control it then, but I had to keep it looking good on the outside because I didn't want to lose my job or my kids. So luckily for my kids, we were divorced. Their dad and I was divorced. We're divorced definitely due to alcohol on my part. And luckily they would spend every other month with their dad. So they had a chance to have a normal life. And I faked it until they go to bed and then I just drink. But I tried to control it. I went into can't remember the name of the store now, but everybody goes to it in Whitefish. And they always had liquor. And I asked if they sold those, you know, the little bottles of wine that are in a little case. Do they still have those? They're in a little 4-pack. Well, I was wondering if they might have a case of those. I actually asked this question. And of course, the guy goes, well, no, we don't usually sell those by the case. My plan was to put them in the garage, and I would have to walk outside to get into the garage. So I could have one, and then I'd have to walk outside to have another one. So I bought that, or 4-pack, put them in my garage, and you know that plan just didn't work. Right after number 1, I was out there for number 2, and then it was. So it also looked like me becoming extremely wicked in the end of my drinking. There was only one occasion that I don't remember what I did, and that's because I was taking Darvon at the same time. And my daughter had asked me if she could go to the freshman kegger. Of course, I said, no, absolutely not. And in fact, since that's going on, you're going to stay home. So she stayed home, and a couple of friends came over. I just had surgery, so that I couldn't go out. They came over and they brought a bottle of wine. I already had a bottle of wine. And I drank most of their bottle of wine and my bottle of wine. And then they left, and my daughter wanted me to take her somewhere. She says, I don't remember. But I guess I just let her have it because that next morning I walked downstairs and my daughter was coming out of the shower and she backed away from me. Mm-hmm. And I said, what's the matter? And she said, are you okay? And she said, you just were pretty angry with me last night. I have no memory. And when I made my amends, I said to my daughter, please tell me what I said. And she said, Mom, you don't want to know that. So my daughter and I have a wonderful relationship. She is why I'm in Missoula. And my son is in Chicago. We also have a relationship, and he is working on his story. So the very last Christmas, I realized that I couldn't drink on Christmas Day and put dinner on the table. So I got this beautiful salmon, and lots of all the things you need to drink at Christmas. And had company and it was a gorgeous dinner. And I cooked it and it worked. And don't ask me to do that now. I'm stone cold sober, so I can't cook. And it was beautiful. And I played the piano and we sang Christmas songs. I could read the music, and we had sang Christmas songs, and then everybody left. And then I drank every last drop of what was left in that kitchen. The next morning, I was divorced, and the way we did it was my kids went to their dad's on Christmas Eve, and then they came to my house for Christmas morning and Christmas Day, and they were supposed to go back to their dad's. And at around noon, they were standing over me and woke me up and said, "We're leaving now." And that was enough, wouldn't it be enough? But it wasn't. It wasn't enough. So this is what happened. The last guy on the block walked out the door because I ripped him a new one because he drank the last glass of wine. How can you do that to somebody who has to have the last glass? So I was wicked to him, and he walked out the door. And as he walked out, I said, "But I'm an alcoholic." And he walked faster. So the next day, that was on a Friday night. The next day was Saturday. So I drank all day Saturday because that's a good day to drink all day. And on Sunday, I got out the newspaper because I needed a guide and I needed to be able to drink like a lady. So I looked through the newspaper and I found this meeting on Sunday morning in Whitefish called the Big Book Group. I read the Good Book Group and I said, "Whoa, no way am I going to that." But on Monday, there was a beginner's meeting. So I finished off Sunday drinking and tapering so I could go to work on Monday morning. And I got in my car and drove on Monday at 5 o'clock down to Kalispell to this beginner's meeting. Took me 10 minutes to get out of the car because I knew that what I was going to find in there were all these people with trench coats and bottles underneath them. And I finally walked up to the door and I was met not by a trench coat, but by a college professor that I had had taught my children during a summer school enrichment camp or something. And I was surprised, but I went in and she just took me as you do. She took me and said, "You come sit by me." Somebody at that meeting said to me, "You don't ever have to drink again if you don't want to." And I thought, well, that's not what I want. I couldn't comprehend how could you go camping without drinking? How could you move without drinking? How could you get married without drinking? How could you go out to dinner without drinking? All these were my major, major thoughts while sitting in that meeting. It was a first step meeting. I have no idea what anybody said, but I did spend a lot of time judging. And I just went around the room and I didn't like what they wore. I didn't like how they read. I just, just your basic judging. After the meeting, all these women came over to me and they had passed around a list. They handed me the list with all the phone numbers. And they all came up to me and said, "You call me if you feel like having a drink." And I looked at them and I said, "Will you call me?" Needless to say, I did not get so. I went home. They had given me a lot of pamphlets. I burned up the pamphlets. I went, got in the car, and I bought a bottle of wine. Came home, drank it. So, the only thing I did do was I did go back to meetings because I really liked the way they treated me. And I wasn't being treated very well, as you might imagine, because of what I was saying when I was drinking. So I went back, and after each meeting, I would go home and drink. I could not drive into the convenience store. And by the way, I drove into many convenience stores because I had to make it look like I wasn't drinking. And I could not have that first drink. So my life looked like this. I would wake up in the morning hating who I was, hating the fact that I said I was not going to drink the day before, and I did. I would then go to work. I would at work at noon. I'd start thinking about when is school going to get out so I can get over to get my wine. I'd go to as soon as school got out, I'd be at the convenience, whatever convenience store there was, or Safeway, and get my at least one bottle of wine. I go home. I'd always buy the cheapest wine I could find. And I was looking for $3 wine. So when I started going to meetings, I always put at least $3 in because that was my wine cost. That's it. So I'd buy a bottle of wine, I'd get home and I'd open it and I'd drink straight out of the bottle for number one. I put the rest of the bottle, the next flask in a glass with an ice cube. I put the rest of the bottle in the freezer. And I'd sit down on my couch and I'd drink that ice cube one. 15 minutes later, get up and go pour something from the freezer and drink until I passed out. I would wake up in the middle of the night, and because all that sugar was in me, and I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I'd go and drink another glass so I could go back to sleep. I had a rule. I could not drink past 5 a.m. Now, one day I would break that rule, but I hadn't yet. So I still had my car. I still had my kids. I sort of like I had them. I still had my house. I still had my job. I was a dead woman walking. I did not have me. I could not stand being with me. That's why passed out seemed like the best plan. Well, one day I went to an after school, an open house at school, and I hated open houses or anything where I had to stay. So I never went home. I just stay at school and go to the open house. And after the open house was over, I was driving home and there was a meeting. The meeting called the Big Book Group was meeting at 8 o'clock. And I thought, oh, I'm right here. I'll just go in because they really treated me nicely. They were all older than I am. And they just treated me like the little child that I was. So at that meeting, the first thing that happened is I sat down next to a woman and she looked at me and she said, "Didn't I just see you over at the school?" And I just, no. You know how the big book says we need a chink in that armor? It talks about pride. So that was my first chink in my pride. Because how could somebody knows, didn't think about the fact that she also was an alcoholic, with somebody's grandmother. And then I was sitting in the meeting, and in that meeting, we would go around a table like this, a lot bigger. And Larry was chairing it, and he'd say, "Is there anybody here for their first, second, or third meeting since their last drink?" And I would always raise my hand. "Hi, I'm Robin. I'm an alcoholic." Just like that. And he said, "You keep coming back, Robin." Okay. So, it came to be my turn. I'm sure I said some stupid something because I never listened. I mean, nothing was coming in. So it went around to a woman who was sitting right where Sue's sitting. And she looked at me and she did this. I have never seen this in an AA meeting, but I have done it once. And she said, "You are so damn lucky to get back here because so many people don't." Yeah. That was another chink. And I slid into my chair. But after the meeting, I walked over to her and I said, "How do you not drink between meetings? I can't do that." She said, "Have you gotten on your knees and asked a power greater than yourself to remove your desire to drink?" And I said, "Well, I pray." She said, "No, have you gotten on your knees and asked a power greater than yourself to remove the desire to pray?" Great. So that night, I went home. I kept my dog out of the room. I shut the door. I got on my knees. And I think for me, it was extremely important that I got on my knees because humility was not really my go-to. And I needed something to make me smaller. And I said, "Whatever is out there, please remove my desire." And that was on October 2nd of 2000. And I have not had a drink, have had a drink since. I have, while I'm standing here right now, I have goosebumps, all of them. I have used that prayer many times. I used it early in sobriety when I was driving down. I've been going to therapy for about 10 years to work on my mom. And my therapist had actually been the one who told me she thought I was an alcoholic. And I said to her, "Well, I know I'm an alcoholic, but I'm not going to stop." So I was going to my therapist, who was pretty done with me. And on the way down, I passed by the Midway Market. Some people might know where that is. That is a great place to buy alcohol because no one knows you. And so you could say you're having a party. So, therefore, you eat a lot. So I'm just about to get to the Midway Market, and I have that thing that's in the big book about, and drinking yourself to oblivion or finding the spiritual path. And I say, "Please remove my desire to drink." And I drove right by the Midway Market. I was on my way to my sponsors. My car pulled right into a convenience store. Just boom. And I said that prayer again. And I got this thought, well, you can always come here after the meeting. I mean, after you meet with your sponsor, right? So I drove to my sponsors, of course. Once I met with my sponsor, I had didn't even remember that I wanted to drink. So I used it then. I used it when my son and I were out to dinner, and we had been trying, we were in Whitefish, and that was all these microbrews and whatever. And we were trying each other's meals. And I said, "So what kind of beer is that?" And he tells me, and I said, "Oh, can I have a sip?" And he looks at me, and I pick up the glass, and I go, "Please, God, remove my desire to drink." And I didn't drink. So I'm still sober. And that prayer has helped me every single time that I've had a temptation. Today, I have no temptations to alcohol. That is the last thing I want. I had said early on that this is great for me, but on my deathbed, I'm going to have a glass of Chardonnay. That is not what I want on my deathbed. I want to be a sober woman full of grace with a capital G. So my life since then has been Always take a service position. Always take a service position. Always have a sponsor. Always have a sponsor. Always work the steps, not once, many times. I have worked the steps many times, and more is revealed. So I continue to do that, and I will always do that. I learn a lot about myself. Somehow I am not, when you ask to have those defects of character removed, they're not all gone. More, they creep up, and they come in different forms now. So I will tell you that I've been married twice more. I skipped one of my weddings, one of my marriages before, but that's okay. Was an anomaly. I was married twice more in sobriety. So there is something about me that is the common denominator. And the fantastic thing is that that's what those steps are all about. What is it about me that's not working? What is it about me that needs to be changed? So my greatest gift is awareness. That I can become aware when I said the wrong thing. And it's just like, or aware when I make, when I hurt somebody without meaning to hurt somebody. And I can then go to my sponsor. I can make amends. I can write about it, which is another awesome tool, because somehow when you write it down, I did mine, not on the computer, with a pen and a piece of paper. And you write it down, other things kind of come out, and you start being able to really look at yourself, or I do. So my first service position in Whitefish, we had I can't remember the name of the shoe store, but we had our meeting that I went to was over the top of that shoe store. And I was supposed to go down to the shoe store, go into a back room and turn on the water so that we could use the water to wash coffee cups. And then after the meeting, go down and turn off the water, and then take the used water down the stairs and pour it into the gutter of the street. And that was my first service position, and I will never forget it, and I felt very proud of it. I continued on in service, doing whatever somebody needed, whatever was asked. I just said yes. I have always just said yes. And it's a very selfish yes. It's because I never, ever want to go back to the hell that I was living in. Ever. I have 3 grandchildren now. I want to enjoy my grandchildren. My granddaughter just spent the night with me Friday night. And she, did nothing but eat sugar. And I even went to, she's in 7th grade, but what she really likes is Florence coffee, but not coffee, ice chai. I go up to get her, I drive up while she's in her PJs watching Garfield. I go up and get her an ice chai, and then they start asking all kinds of questions that I don't know the answers. I go to call her, but my phone is sitting at home. So I drive back down there. Luckily, I don't live more than a mile from the ice chai. I drive back down. I get all the details, and I go back up and get her the ice chai, and it's perfect. Those are the kinds of things it's fine. And let me say that I was getting a little bit like saying, why couldn't you just have the hot chocolate I have in my cup? You should have done that, Robin. And then I start becoming aware, oh, you're in a grumpy mood all of a sudden. Is that what you want to have the rest of the morning be? And I say a prayer. take away this resentment. I enjoy this. And she loved the ice chai. So I have been to AA meetings. I've lived since I left Whitefish. I have lived in Arizona, in Sedona, Arizona. I was very big in service and stuff there. I have a continual relationship with a woman I sponsored starting with my very first meeting there. She came in pretty raw and she needed, the guy that was with her said she needs a sponsor. And I said, I'll be her sponsor. And every week she and I talk to each other and we read different spiritual books together. So our relationship has just continued. I then moved to Denver, Colorado, and was very involved in service there. And I finally moved up to Missoula so I could be with my daughter and my grandkids. Being in Missoula, I am a member of my home group is the Sunrise Group. And I walked into the Sunrise Group. I got here on January 6th, I think, and on January 7th, I walked into the Sunrise meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. And Sue was sitting right in front of me. She was at the table, as she is. And she was sitting right in front of me. And I just felt, wow, I'm home. I had been living for the last couple of years in Colorado. In Colorado, I had been living up in Teller County, which is a very tiny county, and a very conservative county. And it was COVID, and it was very tricky to get to meetings and to connect with anybody. And no one would be my sponsor. They said, yeah, some people have little rules. They said, I can be your closed mouth friend, but I can't be your sponsor. I guess because I wasn't new, I have no idea. But anyway, I didn't like that. I like to have that accountability. I still need all the accountability I can get. I still meet with my sponsor every single week. I want to have somebody know me, somebody who I know will say, well, have you thought about this? Or even stronger for me. And that's really important to me. I've sponsored women ever since the first person asked me, since I've been here. I have 4 sponsees right now, and I love it. I just love it. I get so much out of it. It's probably a lot more than they get out of it. I learned so much about myself. You know, our egos don't just disappear. They hide. And I can sometimes see when my ego is just coming out there wanting to run the show or be right or things like that. And that gives me more to work on. I have a service position and I'll have ever since I got here in the Sunrise Group. And I've just completed my last marriage. The divorce was final on November 6th. And I'm okay. I'm okay. It was a long divorce. It started the previous November. And he's okay. He's also in AA, he has a year more than I do. And he and I have pretty well been able, we've had a couple, he's been calm all the way through. I have had a moment of being a little bit angry, and I've then had to apologize, and we've been able to work things. We figured out what we wanted. Nobody was going, you have to give me this. And I wrote a beautiful amends letter to him, full of love, full of caring, and apologized for my part, which was big. My new thing that I'm also working on now is codependence, which it goes along very well with this disease. And I'm working hard on that. So I feel that with AA, I can go through absolutely anything. I can go through anything. On my very first 4-step, the first thing on my 4-step in the fear inventory was the loss of one of my children. I couldn't even comprehend that. And I don't want to jinx anything, but I know that no matter what happens in my life, I have you guys, even the ones I don't know. I have you, and I have a life that it's not, bells and whistles all the time, but what it is contentment. It's contentment. It's not even joy all the time. It's not joy all the time. Sure, I have joyous times and I have sad times, but I have a power greater than myself that I can go to all the time and that I do practice every single day, every morning, ever since the first day I've been sober. I have talked to my higher power. Every night before I go to sleep, since I've been sober, I talk to my higher power. I also I use the 3rd-step prayer constantly. It's my own self that gets me miserable. It's my own self that gets me in trouble. And I just have a life that I couldn't have ever imagined. And I am so grateful. So thank you very much for everybody coming. And I just love you all. Thank you.